The At Your End Step podcast is brought to you by Comic Town. Check them out at www.comictown.net and search for Comic Town Gaming Center on Facebook. Hello.
Hello.
And welcome to At Your End Step. I'm just going to work through it. Now I'm not going to start over again, even though Mike always does that and makes me start over again. Too bad.
We're going to keep one in this time?
This is the beginning.
We did it.
Yeah,
Yep.
we broke them.
Well, welcome back to At Your End Step. We took last week off. We were a bit wiped out from Richmond. That city takes a lot out of you.
I think we're all sick.
Yeah, Dave was sick. I just got over being sick.
Yeah,
Kevin
it was
sick.
pretty rough. So sorry for the week off, but we're back and ready to have another episode about Your End Step.
I think I was just allergic to Virginia.
It's
Because as soon as I got back to Ohio, I was fine.
Yeah.
It was
That's
weird.
the same as being allergic to garbage. I'm sorry, Virginia. If you're from Virginia and you listen and I've offended you, I apologize.
Yeah,
It's
well-
just Richmond, maybe.
Yeah,
It's
it
so
might be just
dirty.
Richmond. It might
It's
be
so
just
dirty.
Richmond. The waitress was like, yeah, Richmond's all right.
Also, Richmond, where are all your food service people? Because they're not in that city anymore. We had the worst service consistently. Anywhere we went, except when we were leaving, as if they were trying to redeem themselves, last minute, oh no, we can serve you food properly. But
It's too late. It's too late,
yeah,
Richmond.
most any other experience we had in Richmond, as far as food service goes, terrible. So yeah, step up your game, specifically your strudel game. I don't know what you're doing.
That shuttle game.
Yeah, except for the one guy. The one guy who got his free dinner, whatever.
Oh yeah, that guy.
That was fun.
Yeah, we had a shared experience involving a person who was very inebriated, eating random strangers' food and getting kicked out of the establishment in Richmond.
Definitely parlaying with 3 different tables.
Correct,
And
correct.
and everyone just assumed he was at least with one of the groups. He was in fact with none of the groups.
Zero of the
And
groups.
was asked to leave.
It was a great. I'm glad there were other people there though, that we can have that experience with, and then Cedric Phillips and Patrick Sullivan were there. So next time we see him in Cleveland, be like, hey, have you ever gotten so just gone that you're just eating random people's food? No? Okay.
Okay, good. You
Good.
pass.
Good. You're a decent human being. So obviously we'll talk a bit about the Invitational since we didn't have an episode last week. Then we'll talk about Syracuse. We have a tiny yet impactful community topic that we want to touch on, and then typical wrap up stuff. There's there's states this weekend, so we definitely want to touch on that as well, especially since Comic Town is the host of Ohio State's first Star City Games. So
It's also the Pro Tour. Just throwing that one out.
oh yeah, I mean that's not even that big of a deal, right?
No, we're
Pro
talking
Tour.
about the important tournament.
Yeah, exactly. The one that you can actually
Sprouts.
Rose or Brussels sprouts. Yeah, exactly. So let's go ahead and move into the community segment. So yesterday, it was announced that the preliminary PTQs are actually going to be going through a bit of a change where they will have pseudo seasons, basically. So Helene Bergeau announced that starting with next season, so next PPTQ season, the tournaments will either have to be modern or sealed. And the tournaments, the PPTQs for the Pro Tour will follow the Pro Tour structure, as well as the regional PTQs, if I'm not mistaken on that one as well.
They're gonna work like the original PTQs did, with the exception of you always have the option to play sealed.
Sealed.
Which I know hasn't been the most popular option.
But it makes sense because there's always a limited portion
Yeah.
of the Pro Tour.
Yeah. So, there's definitely some communities that love it. Honestly, it's fairly popular in our community. There's a lot of people who
Yeah.
clamor for sealed, and our sealed PTQ numbers are always pretty insane. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some stores doing that. But I'm sort of interested in what this means. The experiment of choose your own format did not last very long. So what happened there? Was it just all standard then?
I didn't think that it would last very long because I think it's very easy for stores to just say, oh yeah, we'll just run it as standard, and I think a lot of stores did that. So I'm not really surprised by this announcement, and I actually like it a lot.
It makes logical sense. Sorry,
Yeah.
Morgan.
I mean, I was going to say, it's kind of weird to win, a modern PPTQ and then go to the regional that's standard, and then go to the Pro Tour that's standard. So it's it makes more sense to have them in line with what the event you're trying to qualify for is going to be.
Yeah, in all honesty, it's kind of surprising that they didn't just have it this way from
The get-go.
outset. Yeah, I don't really understand why they left it to the stores, because you kind of knew it was going to happen.
I mean, I guess
Yeah.
there's two sides. On your point, I mean, actually, the guy that defeated us, and I say us as in like myself and Morgan in the modern PPTQ, I saw he posted on Facebook today asking for some help with standard because he's not a standard player and he's got to go to Chicago in a few weeks and
Yeah.
play standard, and that's kind of unfortunate because like he didn't qualify that way. You know what I mean? Like he qualified in his format, so and that makes sense. That's how PTQs worked before, was you could like play to your strengths. And I saw some people on Twitter and like Reddit and a couple of places I was reading making mentions of like how this doesn't like reward all, like this only rewards certain groups of players. And I'm like, well, one, it doesn't make any sense because that's how the PTQ system worked literally forever. But two, like even to that point, like that just means you get less standard. Like I don't know. It seems odd to me that people would be confused by this.
It's not even really that much less standard because we still only have one Modern Pro Tour per year now. So it's literally just this one season, which I believe is from June 6th.
It's like June 6th to August 14th or something like that.
Yeah, June 6th to August 16th.
16th, right.
So really, this is the only portion of the year where you're going to have to play Modern if you want to play constructed PPTQ. So I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah, and a lot of people are saying like this is a pseudo return to the financial like seasoning that happened with cards for Modern, where you would have a time where Modern cards would get more expensive, and then once season rotated, they would get less expensive. So you do have a pseudo return to that. I'm not quite sure how much a PPTQ will really charge that, rather than change numbers rather than a PTQ would. But it is something to take note of, that you could see Modern cards become fluctuate more or less depending on the season.
Modern PPTQ season starts June 6th, right? Is that what we just said?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
Modern Masters 2 comes out 2 weeks before that. Interesting.
And I think this is like the first time that's really been noted that there's going to be like another Modern Pro Tour too, right? That this is what this foreshadows, and it's the first time they've made that official.
I don't think anybody thought it was going away.
No. But I mean, like, it shows that instead of like having all the Pro Tours be standard, like they said they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, this is just going to be, one Modern Pro Tour and then the rest standard or something like that. So, but this is the first time they've established that, for the next PPTQ season, that the Pro Tour you're qualifying for is going to be Modern constructed.
That's true. So I think it's a good change. I think it's a change you could have seen coming. Like,
And
stores
it's nice.
they couldn't handle it.
Yeah, it's nice that you don't have to, switch between. You don't necessarily have to switch between, what you're playing for that weekend. Like you get to focus on one deck or one, format, basically, for what you're trying to do for that season. Like, I want to qualify for this. This is what I'm going to be focusing on, and you don't have to necessarily get distracted unless you want to play something else.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like what Mike was saying. Like you can actually prepare, and like it's now that it's seasonal, you can actually be prepared, not have to jump around all different decks. Yeah, I like it.
Well, that's pretty much it for community. Let's go ahead and dive right into competitive. So first, we're going to talk about the Invitational. We all attended. I was qualified, so I was very proud of myself for doing so. And
Good, because we weren't.
yeah, I know, it's sad. So let's go ahead. So I guess we kind of already dug into this subtopic, but how was Richmond? Not good.
We brought the Ohio with us, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like, it was warm the night we got in, and then just was 40 degrees and rainy the whole time, and I was like, why?
Yeah, it
Warm
was
weather
very
one
disappointing. Yeah, no, can't have a nice weather. It was not the best, unfortunately. Let's move into what we actually played. So it was really funny that Cedric Phillips was talking about a bigger red deck, because that's basically what we decided to play for standard. Mike and I wanted a green splash for some sideboard cards and some flexibility in there, and Dave was just like, I'll just play Creator Elemental instead. It's fine.
Oh yeah, that thing was awesome.
So basically we played mono red or red splash green dragons.
Yeah,
basically.
big red dragons.
Yeah. So the idea was Thunderbreak Regent into Stormwrath Dragon. We also had Dragon Whisperer, had a subtle devotion theme, but not necessarily focused on that. But yeah, I mean, that's basically what we played. I had a 2-2 record with the red-green version. What did everyone else? What did everyone else do?
I also went 2-2, and got the deck felt really good, but I got some unfavorable matchups, I think, and had to play against Shaheen Sarani's Esper deck, and we were just not, our deck was not constructed to beat a Narset deck. Like it was one of those things where like we go blind into a format and like deck felt fine, and then get against a matchup that we could not, like we just didn't see, and they were close games, but it was just like the edge was to the 10 life gaining Planeswalker essentially.
Yeah. To be fair, though, like, the deck was super good against blue-black.
Oh, no.
Like, blue-black, it was just, like, unlosable almost.
I mean, you saw the matchup that I played against Blue Black.
Yeah.
I got destroyed game 1, and then we went into our board plan where we had, like, Hammer, Purpose, and Outpost Sieges
Yeah,
and everything. It was just like...
literally every card was a threat.
Yeah, it was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like...
But, yeah, I also went a mediocre 2-2. Played against, a variety of decks, though. It was kind of sweet. But, yeah, it just didn't pan out. I think, like, also moving forward, the deck's not really, at least right now, I don't think it's viable, just because in testing, the red-green aggro deck was very hard to beat. Like, Sirach, in particular, was super good against this deck. So that deck is, well, we'll get into it, but it showed up a lot.
we made some choices for that tournament, such as I think we all ended up playing for Draconic Roar in the main.
Yeah.
That ended up feeling terrible. I'm gonna say I played against Control twice, and like the only time I got to cast it against them is Shaheen like punted to me and let me kill a Ojutai because he didn't realize he didn't think I had burn on my hand and let me kill an Ojutai with them. But they were not very good for me most of the day. And as I've seen a couple other decks come around, like the blue red dragons deck, like Hoogla and everything, he had similar thoughts on Draconic Roar. So that I think we made a couple numbers errors overall across 75.
I mean, I'm not displeased with the deck, though. I mean, going in, it's like it's really hard to tell. I mean, this is a large set coming in, and as we saw, it had like a pretty big impact overall, I feel like, and you could probably figure, like, I figured there would definitely be some Abzan aggros, and you could, red-green aggro, you could see.
And Abzan, like, I played against Abzan and destroyed it. Like, we knew that was a good matchup. And, like, mono red was there. Like, you can see the 7-1 deck list. There's a bunch of mono red, and I think we all felt we were pretty good in that matchup. I never played against it. Did you, Dave?
I did not play against it, but I didn't actually feel that great about the matchup. I thought pre-board it was pretty bad. Post-board it got a lot better, but it's still, like, if you're losing game 1 almost every time, then I didn't think it'd be that great. But
I mean, I don't know. I didn't think that matchup was that bad. But
I don't think I ever played against a mono red. I did play against a whip deck, and that felt pretty bad.
No. Blue Arrows is a tough card to beat.
It certainly is. And yeah, that basically was the issue. It was just like, well, it's just wasn't a great time against that deck.
We had the unfortunate issue of like we really had to do well in Standard because I don't think any of us felt like Legacy was I was confident in my deck, but like you still never know what's going to show up, and like I played against Miracles round 5, which is a good matchup, but a slow matchup. My opponent was not good with his deck, and we drew, which is just a loss. And it was a really awkward way to start. So it was just it was a slog. Day 1 was a slog.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I mean, like, none of us really play Legacy regularly, and yeah, I definitely felt the way. I felt like I had to go 3-1 or 4-0 in Standard to have a chance at day 2. Ended up going 2-2 in Legacy, which for the total mediocre 4-4 on day 1. But it was fine. I played Jeskai Delver. I was going to play Jeskai Stoneblade, but I'm like, but Delvers. I mean,
got a problem, man.
Yeah, they're good. But
yeah, I played a Painter, and I didn't win a game. I didn't win a match. I did win games. But I guess I wasn't necessarily expecting to do great in Legacy. I have no idea. I don't know the format at all, and it's just not something that I prepared for enough, and I know that. So meh.
Yeah, it was honestly, and I was talking about this before the tournament. I mean, this tournament was harder to prepare for than any Pro Tour that I've played in. And I'm pretty sincere when I say that, just because like Legacy, if you don't play Legacy regularly, it's really hard to test.
I was going to say Legacy.
Legacy. It's hard to test. You just kind of have to just jam games. You just have to know your deck, and it's really important to know the format. So I mean, none of us really tested Legacy at all. I think we all just kind of picked this. Oh, what you played Legacy? Well, you played the deck that you played. You played Charlotte's.
I feel like I was the most confident out of any of us. Like I knew the deck very well, and I knew my matchups well. But I mean, again, sometimes you can't avoid certain things.
Yeah, like I don't play Legacy a whole lot. I mean, I know the format, I know the decks, and I know a lot of the interactions, but I just don't have the experience of actually playing the games.
Right.
So I think that that was definitely a disadvantage for me, and I felt like we didn't really have enough time to do, like, we had to kind of brew standard with a new set and also worry about Legacy, and I don't know about you. I mean, I focused almost all of my attention on standard, so it was tough.
Yeah, it was fun. Like I wasn't like frustrated. I didn't leave that Friday being like angry about it. Like I think none of us jumped into the open the next day because like we knew we wanted to reevaluate the deck. And I don't think any of us have actually played it since. Like I think we've decided like it's not the best right now.
Seeing where the format's gone, I don't think it's that great, though. Well, I mean, we'll see what comes out of the Pro Tour. I think the format's still shaping up, so maybe a few tweaks. It could be a player, but
yeah, and I mean, like we also have to like just take actually look at the decks in the format just to see if there is a better that deck anyway. Yeah, which could just be the case.
I think we'll get into CBM's deck from the Open, but I think that is kind of what we were going for. I think with the deck, it's a little bit more explosive.
Yeah.
So,
as far as the invitational goes, we'll take a look and see that Jacob Wilson was the overall champion of the invitational, playing Abzan Control as his his standard deck, and then he was playing Teamer Delver in Legacy, and he defeated Reed Duke, playing CDC Reanimator, CDC Whip. What did he play? He played Miracles in Legacy, right?
Yes, correct? Of course.
Okay, yeah. So congratulations, Jacob Wilson. He has a lovely monk token as his invitational token card.
The little orchid.
Well, yes, the lotus. The lotus.
Quick question for you guys. Do you know how many Platinum Pros are playing in that tournament?
A lot.
2.
Oh,
the 2 guys that met in the final.
Oh.
Shocker.
Interesting.
Are you saying they're good at Magic?
Yeah. You're saying this is a skill game? I don't know.
I mean, there was a lot of good names, a lot of top names in the actual top 8 of the Invitational, which is pretty interesting to see.
Yeah.
We have Ross Merriam, Todd Anderson, Chris Anderson, Michael Braverman. The only really unknown, and Joe Bass, the only really unknown was Jason Coleman. He's more of a local Midwest player than anything else. We've seen him. We've played against him.
1-0 against him.
I know for a fact that he's beaten me when Naya Hexproof was the deck. So
okay.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? But yeah, it was pretty interesting top 8 in the MV.
Yeah, I was particularly impressed with Michael Braverman and his standard record. He was 8-0 in standard with the mono red deck. It's kind of an interesting build. It's not. I think there's a lot of different ways you could take mono red aggro right now, and he definitely played it in such a way that spot removal wouldn't be as good. Like he was definitely playing some tokens. He only had 1 Rabble Master in his deck. So I mean, unfortunately for him, he took his first loss in standard in the top 8. But still a pretty good run, and I know his brother also played the same list, like 7-1 in standard, and there was another person that was 7-1.
Braverman shirts, they all played the same mono red list.
Yeah, they had I think overall, so they were 8-0, 7-1, 7-1. 3 guys that played it. Yeah. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, going in, we knew mono red was going to be a deck.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the initial idea of like where we wanted to take a look at some initial lists, and mono red was definitely the first one we looked at.
Yeah, I didn't think we'd be seeing 4X Lightning Berserker in the main, but that card was pretty sweet. That card was really good. I went back and watched some of the archives, and it was just pretty good when it was on.
My love for that deck is like a ticking clock.
So that was and the Standard Open was won by another familiar name, Joe Lawson, playing heroic, Jeskai heroic, and we'll talk about another heroic deck, which might actually just be better in this that appeared in the Syracuse Open in a little bit. We're not quite done with Richmond because there was a modern IQ that we all played in, and some of us did a little bit better than others. I didn't do so well. I don't think I played the right version of Junk, or it was really weird. There's a lot of
just played Jund.
Yeah, I probably should have, in all honesty. That there's a huge debate whether which version is currently better right now. And like it's a very internal debate with me on what I actually want to be playing. But I can't talk about the deck very long.
Like
People get angry.
Yeah, that's Dave's got the little guys on the shoulder like Junk, Jund.
He's got a couple souls over here. Like, oh, play Junk.
And it really sucks because
People.
RK Post was at the Invitational, and I bought a bunch of Edgar Allan Poe tokens for spirits. So I really just want to play it for that reason, but I can't necessarily do that if it's not like the best deck for the tournament. But so as far as top 8 goes, there's this Mike guy in the top 8. Apparently, he goes on to the top 4 even. Whatever. We don't really have to talk about it though.
Oh no!
Can we talk about my deck?
No, we do. No. I think it's cool. Something to point out is so like they didn't show the top 32 list. They showed the top 26 list and stopped at 26 with one Dave Nolan. So if you want to go ahead, you wax poetic about your list. Here.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I don't want to.
I mean, Keller said it was one of the worst things he's ever played in a tournament. So
Yeah. So Keller and I played nearly identical Grixis Delver lists. I think his was probably 2 or 3 cards off.
He ran the command. You didn't, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you ran the cold.
I actually did test the command, and I thought it'd be sweet, but it really wasn't. But
That's just showing up in a legend list though.
yeah, it's probably better in Jun. But anyway, I mean, the deck was pretty sweet. I mean, it was kind of a stock list. I mean, there's been some Grixis Delvers showing up in these IQs. So played it, was had a draw in round 1, unfortunately, and then won my next 4 or 5 in a row, and then ended up losing 2 in a row before winning in the last round. So ended up X2 and 1, made $50. I think the deck is sweet still, so I'm probably still going to play it. But yeah, we'll see.
That's cool. So, well, I guess I'll talk about me for a little bit here.
Yep. Well, I mean, like, keep it short. You wrote an article about it, so
I did. You know who else wrote an article about it? LSV.
I just left the door open for him, didn't I?
You did. I thought you were setting me up, but then I saw the disdain. Like you just messed up. I played Blight Giftstron, which is a lot of you know in here is my modern deck of choice. I haven't talked about Giftstron nearly as much as you've talked about Junk and Jund on this podcast, so you can back off for a minute.
So that's all right. Would you say that Bob is playable in this format again, or?
I don't care. So I played Blightron, which is again my go-to deck, and I think I've said this a couple of times. I said it in the piece I wrote for Legit that went up yesterday. That Modern is so open, and like if you look at those top 26 deck lists, like from Richmond, and go look at the ones from Syracuse this week too, like there are just a million archetypes in the top 16, the top 20, 26, 32, whatever you want to go to. That like knowing your deck and knowing how to play it, like I don't think there's a lot of people would sit here and say that like Grixis Delver is one of the better strategies in Modern. Like
No.
But you know how to play it and you do well with it. And the same thing for like I don't think there's a lot of people clamoring for Giftstron, to be like, oh man, I can't wait to build that deck. But knowing how to play it is really worked for me. And I had a couple people I played against who really thought they had really good matchups against me and like were frustrated they lost. Like I played Merfolk multiple times. I lost to it once. But there was a ton of Merfolk.
There was a lot of Merfolk.
Yeah, that's what threw me off too.
There
being so much Merfolk.
They were like, oh well, this would be a good matchup for me. It's like, well, I mean, I guess if you just like play really poorly, in my experience, it hasn't been that kind of a matchup. But and it could be definitely they're favored, but like. Nothing that I would be like, oh, I should just lose here. And
I think they might think about it the same way they think about like Red Green Tron maybe.
Maybe
but your deck doesn't function necessarily the same way.
No, not at all. I mean,
so they're just thinking like, oh, I have Spreading Seas, I shut off your Tron lands, you can't do anything.
Right.
But that's not, as you have expounded upon in your article, that's not how your deck works necessarily.
Yeah, so my only losses, I lost 2 Merfolk, and then I lost 2 Infect in top 4, that is definitely a bad matchup. I managed to steal game 1.
Yeah.
We got
Elish Norn is a hell of a card.
Unfortunately, though, he had really, really good draws games 2 and 3, and like I mulliganed a lot, and you have to mulligan aggressively in that matchup, and like Like he had the right card pretty much every turn, even in bad situations, and he had the dispel in hand both games 2 and 3. Like to counter like the first thing I actually tried to play. So it was just
Definitely rough.
It was rough, and it's not a good matchup. So that's where I died. It's really unfortunate too because I definitely think that I was favored in the finals, but.
The overall winner was Affinity in the finals,
and that is a very good matchup for me.
Yeah.
So they also can't beat Ellis Norton, but they also have a much harder time being like they can't kill nearly as fast as Infect can. Like they're a lot weaker to things like Path
they're not necessarily a combo deck.
Correct.
Infect is definitely a combo deck.
Yeah, Infect is just a combo deck, and it was rough. So it was a fun tournament. It was cool to see the deck got out there, and then LSV wrote an article for the Mothership. Like he said he was trying. The point of the article is to outline strategies that use new cards. And then he mentioned mine, and I'm like, I'm running an Ugin.
That's new-ish.
And that's not dragons. Like
it's new enough.
It's new enough. Ugin did some sweet work, by the way. I definitely had a great moment where I got to cast an Ugin and had a number of people watching me because I was playing against the guy running the Sultai, the Fabiano special, which he was in that tournament as well. But
he was.
But I was playing against that, and I had a bunch of people around me at the same time say Ugin and Ooh at the same time. So all you heard behind it, all I heard was this guy going Ugin. I was like, I just started laughing. I couldn't help myself. Just like Ugin. So it was sweet. I would take a look at those lists because there's a sweet zoo list if you like collected company. I played against that guy. Definitely blew me out one game where I was like going to Iona him out of the game, and then he was just like, "Oh, in response, I'll just like put 2 Tarmogoyfs into play," and I was just like. I'm dead.
That same list, or at least similar list, showed up over the weekend in Modern States. So that could just be, one of the new nihilists.
So
that's just the standard.
There's at least 2 collected company that's running around now. One of them's a combo deck.
Oh yeah, one of them is a Malira combo deck.
Have you not seen the Congregation of Dawn deck?
No, I haven't seen that.
Oh yeah, that top 16. The Syracuse?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, one of them is a Malira combo deck or an Afenza Kintree Spirit combo deck, and the other one is a Naya Zoo list.
Like and it's a lot. It's not nearly as aggressive. It's closer to mid range, but
it's more of a bigger zoo. You're running things like Night of the Reliquary, and like Tarmogoyf.
But it was sweet. So it was a fun tournament. Top 8 took forever. Dave Shields played a ridiculous Blue Moon list, and then played a Blue White Red mirror, like
Grixis Moon.
Grixis
what it was
Moon
playing.
versus 4-color. Like control with lingering souls, and they played an hour and a half.
Just like both those lists, like the greediest things in the world.
Yeah. Well, the reason why it took so long is there was a judge call that lasted like literally. It was like literally 35 minutes.
Dave Shields got a game lost and didn't get a game lost and got a game lost again and didn't get a game lost.
Yeah, like his opponent like got up off the table, like went to the bathroom. And then they waited for him to get back before they ruled on it, and then they gave a ruling, and there was an appeal. Yeah, it was pretty. We were all just like so hungry, just want to get dinner.
Playing Type 4 in the corner, like I played Merfolk at the top 8, and like the guy Mulligan really badly game 1, and like I had good draws both games, so it was like we were done. The Infect guy was done, the Affinity guy was done, and these 2 guys were playing. It's like cool.
Yeah. By the way, we're still in game 1, guys. Cool. All right. But yeah,
it was a good way to end the weekend, though. With the Invitational being a bust and us not playing in the Open, it was, I don't know, it felt nice to do something relevant.
I definitely got to beat Jordan in the first round of the draft, which made me feel really great. That's all I needed. I beat Jordan.
So Jordan, who didn't show up to the site on Sunday until, like 1 o'clock?
Super late.
He gave us his card. He's like, I'm just going to Uber there when I feel like it. Like... Dear Lord,
God,
man.
Modern technology, right? I'll just show up whenever. Who cares? But yeah, I mean, that was the Invitational. It's fun. I don't know if I ever want to go back to Richmond for another Magic tournament. I really don't. That city always just I never feel like, oh man, I'm glad we went. Even Detroit, surprisingly enough, still had a good time in Detroit, and probably would still go back.
I would go back to Detroit. I don't know, Jordan would.
Probably not.
He got that whole lung disease thing. Where his doctor literally asked him, he's like, did you go somewhere with high pollution this weekend? He's like, I went to Detroit. And he's like, oh, that explains it.
We were around a lot of smokers this weekend. No, I went to Detroit.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Your doctor shouldn't be saying that. Fix it, Detroit.
Yeah.
Even though the tournament was a bust, though, I was still really looking forward to that tournament. looking forward even more to the Columbus Invitational because that's modern and
Yeah, that's
standard.
modern and standard.
Modern's my jam.
Yeah,
So.
I think we are all a lot more comfortable with modern than we are.
We also
with,
don't have to drive 8 hours to get there.
Yeah,
that's
I
the
also
best.
can get up, half an hour before the tournament starts.
Yep.
One last thing about the Invitational. It was very good to see Billy from Philly.
Yeah, shout out to Billy. Also, shout out to Roger. I played Roger round 4 of the Invitational, and he was a listener as well. Thank you for listening.
I think it was cool to see Billy Billy was one of our when we were first starting out, one of the guys hey, you guys are awesome, and I listened to you from Philadelphia, and we were like, whoa, wait, that far away?
I think we first saw him in Richmond last year.
Yeah, it was too. So he was there again, and we were just it was like, oh man, this is insane. So
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Moving on, we did have Syracuse over the weekend, and it was won by Chris Van Meter playing Green-Red Aggro. Kind of
aggro.
a misnomer
It's
here at
not
Star
aggro.
City Games. It's definitely a mid-range list, in
Yeah.
my opinion. I mean, you definitely have more of an aggressive aggressive slant on it.
Aggressive
stint, yeah. Slant on it, but you are definitely, you have a 7 drop in your deck. I don't know how aggressive you could really be.
So we were talking about this at F&M last week about people on the Open, and Van Meter came up and we were talking about how really he, having seen him play and everything else, he's a fine player, but compared to some of the other guys, he's never struck me as that person who's the highest level of play. And then someone was like, well, I don't know, as long as he's playing monsters, he seems to do okay. And then
Yeah.
he plays, so you give him a deck that he knows how to run, and he's insane with it, but he's not the best player when it comes to just picking up a random deck. But it's really cool to see him just kind of go once he knows the strategy, man, that guy's gonna rip you up.
Yeah, they actually talked about that on coverage a little bit, and about that exact thing about how much more comfortable he looks when he's playing this style of deck.
Yeah.
And I watched a little bit of the Open, and honestly, he was pretty impressive. Definitely made some plays that I probably would not have made, if I was in that same seat, and totally made sense. So.
Yeah, I definitely saw this list and was like, man, I want to play this for the... I went to an IQ on Sunday at Epic Loot Games in Centerville, Dayton area.
How many people were at that?
The final count was 16. We had 2 people show up during round 1, and they specifically asked, well, can we sign up still? Yes. You'll have a round 1 loss, but you still have a chance to top 8.
They both top 8? Tell me they both top 8.
No, neither of them top 8, unfortunately.
That's really sad.
But it was a 4-round IQ.
No Easter IQs. I think that has to be the lesson.
I'm
here,
all
right?
for it. I went 2-2 and top 8'd, so I'm whatever. You can go for it. Keep doing it. But I couldn't find. I couldn't find Dragon Lord Atarkas. I only have 1. I need another one, of course. And now I fear that I will never find them for a reasonable price. No, they're only $8. That's not bad. They're not
So what's interesting
buco
is
bucks.
this was going back. If you went back and looked through our testing lists, this is pretty close to one of the lists that we had proposed. I don't think we ever got as big as a Tarka. I think that's the one
No.
thing. But so the swap here for coursers instead of Gravel Masters makes a lot of sense. And pretty much every article in the last 2 weeks, especially the ones about tokens coming out of Star City and everything else, are telling you to play 4 Wild Slash, play 4 Wild Slash, play 4 Wild Slash. So it makes a lot of sense to be moving away from Rabble Master right now.
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, I played Jeskai Aggro in the IQ, and a lot of wild slashes. And Rabble Master just if he bites it, then people were always prepared for it. People were always expecting you to play Rabble Master on turn 3 and have an answer for it. And it was basically a standoff. So
Right.
whoever played their threat first, and that's how it usually is with Jeskai or Red White in the mirror match or anything like that. Whoever plays the first threat, that's where it's going to falter. So playing something Course of Krufix, though, on turn 3 completely blows that out of the water. And in all honesty, when you take a look at a lot of the other lists, they're not necessarily running a whole lot of things that are able to immediately deal with an X4 or an X5 necessarily. They have a couple of roasts, but I mean, if you're playing...
Kill any dragons.
Yeah. But I mean, unless they have one of their 2 roasts game 1, you're going to play Courser, and they're either never going to deal with it, or they'll just have to keep piling on threats. But I mean, it's going to stop some form of aggression initially.
I feel like CVM's deck is just like how they drew it up in R&D.
Yeah.
Oh man, 10 dragons, yeah. All right, for Draconic Roar. All right.
Yeah,
Haven of the Spirit Dragons.
he is definitely going all in on Draconic Roar like we were as well. So I mean,
I will say the difference here though is one of the earlier lists I was trying to test out which walkers would be better, but like against Control, then he still has a couple of cards that hedge a little bit towards Control.
Yeah.
Again, Courser being better than like Rabbit Master versus Control, and Xenagos. Like
being able to play Xenagos is a big game. So yeah, I think the other list to definitely touch on here. Well, the other factor to touch on here is there are a lot of aggro decks in this top 8. In this actual tournament, there are like 20-something aggro lists out of the top 32 that they posted, which is insane.
Yeah, nearly half of them almost are green-red aggro's. It's like absurd. Now, there are different flavors. They kind of label them all red-green aggro. Some of them are more like mono-red splash Tarkir's
They did
command.
try to differentiate between like so if it's red-green aggro or green-red
Right.
aggro. They try.
Yeah.
That's really the only differentiation they're giving you on the website.
Right. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the kind of Ross Merriam style lists with Sirach popping up there.
Now, the list that I think everyone is kind of has its eyes on now is Band Heroic, piloted by Tom Ross. It looks like your basic blue-white heroic list. Nothing really eye-popping until you get to the 4 main deck Dramoka's Command, which apparently I didn't watch any coverage. I was
Dave just kept like randomly.
exactly.
Just be like, oh my god, he got another one.
Yeah. Apparently, this card was nutso butso during the open. Now, in Tom Ross's profile, he says that he feels the deck is a little bit misbuilt. He wanted to make room for the 22nd land main instead of having it in the sideboard. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this list with the Pro Tour coming up, because I think a lot of people are going to flock to this list.
Is he queued?
He's not.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not queued for this.
I was wondering why he would like throw this technology out there. I had to assume maybe he wasn't then.
Yeah, this in my opinion was, even though it didn't win the tournament, I thought it was the most impressive deck. And I, for a long time now, have said that Heroic is just unplayable and it's not good. But this version actually made me think about, I'm like, oh man, I kind of want to play this deck. Like,
I still don't think you want to play this deck.
I don't know. Like,
you probably not.
Nah,
You specifically.
Yeah, but Dramoka's command was so good. Like, being able to target 2 of your heroic guys. To be like, oh, okay, I'm going to put a +1/+1 counter on this guy. Oh, it actually gets 2 +1/+1 counters.
Right.
And then I'm going to use this guy to fight, and then before the fight resolves, I get a +1/+1 counter on this. It was just completely disgusting. I was super impressed by this, and I think like it was really weird. So Tom Ross was on camera a lot over the weekend.
Not
didn't,
shocking.
In all honesty, I mean, they didn't have a lot of big name players at this one.
Again, a lot of them
Are in Brussels.
have left.
It's also in Syracuse, which I think is not the easiest place to get to. But
a lot of orange men up there.
yeah,
scary.
nobody wants citrus. But it was weird. So Tom Ross was on camera a lot, and honestly, he made a lot of play mistakes. It was really out of character. Like, he made he missed a lot of triggers and like just didn't really play the best.
That New York life, man, I won't tell you.
Yeah, but like I think that just goes to show you how good this deck is. He's still like just cruised into top 8 like it was no big deal.
He is playing Treasure Cruise.
He was cruising
so.
as well, yeah. But this is a deck I expect to see at least a lot of at States this weekend. I don't know about the Pro Tour, but I wouldn't be surprised if we showed up at the Pro Tour.
This deck is super cheap, and a lot of people like I have this deck built. I just on Dramoka's commands. So
You still have 2 of mine, but it's fine.
Well, it's not like I have them for any reason other than somebody else. I'm
know.
an intermediary. You know what? You're not getting them back now. So I get my dig through times.
That's true. I didn't bring those. I should have. But we'll have an exchange later. It's all right.
I'll have to get a third party to like walk them forward.
Yeah.
But this deck's like really easy to. A lot of people already had this deck built. I could definitely see this deck being sort of a runaway. In Columbus this week. Everything else.
Dramoka's Commands are sold out at $7.99 each.
Yeah, that still seems like it's not a price that could be sustained. But.
No, I don't think it can be sustained. I am happy I own them though, to be 100%, and definitely pre-ordered them at $3 each because value.
This deck was also playing one other new card is playing Center Soul.
Yeah.
Main deck one of.
Hey, which I brought up on the set review. Check.
Yeah. I mean, it seemed to be pretty sweet.
Anything else you want to brag about here?
No, until we talk about something I can brag about again.
Your inability
This is
to
it.
take down a 16-man tournament.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's over here like bragging on everything. I got to bring him back down to peg.
True.
He can't be happy for too long.
No, not at all.
No, so we can talk about this when we get to the Pro Tour, I guess. But like, it's interesting to see what will this mean for the Pro Tour, because the Pro Tours are notoriously like anti-aggro. Like, everyone prepares for aggro. However, there's like 3 or 4 different flavors of aggro right now. Like, you can play mono red, you can play red green, you can play the teamer deck that played well here, that was doing pretty well. You can play heroic.
Abs and aggro.
And of
that's
course
gonna
abs
be a
and
big
aggro,
deck.
which is still a big deal. So.
Yeah, that was second place. Was abs and aggro. It's still a deck, even though it has like the worst man base in standard currently.
I mean, I tell you what, though, you know what card I think is going to be very good this weekend?
Tell us.
Valorous Stance.
Yeah,
You know what Valorous Stance does?
a lot of dirty
Kills
things.
everything.
Pretty much all of these things. Like, mono red is the only deck it doesn't have any game against, but Valorous Stance kills everything that's been targeted generally once or twice in the heroic deck.
Yeah.
It kills everything in the red or the red green deck, including the coursers, which are difficult to kill.
Yeah.
All the dragons.
Jeskai is also, you don't necessarily want Valor stances against that.
Sure, but where is it?
Yeah, the only thing we have is a 11th place Todd Anderson
Tokens.
playing tokens, which, you know, any flavor of Jeskai you probably don't want Valor stance unless they have like Ojutai, but even then you're like, eh.
And I like tokens. That's what I've still been testing. Like, I still like the deck, but I mean the people are playing the black enchantment, unfortunately.
Yeah, virulent plague.
I definitely played a game today where I won through a virulent plague with only 2 cards left in my library, so that was exciting. Had to find that last stoke the flames.
So Gerard Fabiano actually came up 9th place, and he was playing a Jund mid-range deck, and he actually wrote an article and had a straw poll, and people voted on what they wanted him to play. Why he did this, I don't know. They were going to pick Jund mid-range.
He's like, you know, I could probably win with anything
bored.
anyway.
Yeah,
so-
I do appreciate that he had a Sultai deck, but it says like Sultai cards I own.
Yeah.
And that was the best thing.
There's
I was
like cards in a binder.
yeah, basically. And you know, it definitely shows that Gerard Fabiano is probably just, you know, still on his game. He
He
played
is just better than you.
Yeah, he played a pile, to say the least, and was like, yeah, still gonna get 9th place, no big deal.
He was also playing Dragon Lord Tarka in his
Yeah.
deck, and man, that card was just really impressive this weekend.
It definitely is. Having something that comes into play in like just 5 damage, like to creatures or planeswalkers, like that's good. It's nice. Like, I have this giant threat that you have to deal with. Also, I killed 1 to like 3 things of yours, which is great. It's great. It's what you need.
Yeah. Not to mention, like, against any of these red-green aggro decks, like, if you just resolve that, you're basically wiping out probably their board, and then you just have this giant thing that they have to somehow get off the board, which
Right.
I don't know how they're going to kill it. But.
Yeah. But yeah, I think, like, you know, take a look at everything. I think that Standard is going to be really interesting. The Pro Tour is going to be really interesting. I can only imagine, like, what we have in store and, like, what we're not seeing. Like, that's the always exciting thing about the Pro Tours is what we don't see.
Yeah, I don't really know what to take away from Syracuse. Obviously, there were a ton of aggro decks, and I don't think we're going to see that at the Pro Tour. I don't even know how good, really, this red-green aggro deck is.
Yeah.
In all honesty, I mean, I think it's a good week 1, week 2 deck if you don't really know what's going to show up, just because it's fairly consistent, you know, powerful deck. But I think we haven't really seen. We saw Shaheen Sarani make the Esper deck, but I think that wasn't fully there yet. Now the format's shaping up a little bit. I think we'll probably see a little bit more control at the Pro Tour.
I kind of like Esper just looking at these lists because like a target's not very good against Esper. Like unless you're actively able to kill a planeswalker when it resolves, like it's a 7-mana do nothing that's easy to kill for Esper because they have Hero's Downfall and Murderous Cuts.
Right.
So I think that's an interesting way to go. And then we are also discussing the idea that like Mardu, like Crackling Doom gets better the more of these huge one. Crackling Doom's bad when their 7-drop is Hornet Queen because that's awful. When their 7-drop is a Tarka, Crackling Doom feels a lot better because it's clean. Yeah, they're gonna deal 5 damage to your board. The Tarka does that. That's upsetting, but you could see Crackling Doom being very good. And there could be, I think it's been mentioned before, there could be a control deck that's running Crackling Doom. Okay, and it's probably a blue control deck that's running Crackling Doom. Let's just be very honest.
Yeah.
So there could be a lot of cool places this format could still go.
Oh yeah, definitely. Modern IQ had 124 players, won by Affinity. Good thing to note that Affinity has now gone back-to-back in Modern IQs, so maybe play some more hate cards. I mean, it is important to note that like Affinity is changing a little bit, and in that it is playing in Soul Artifact. At least this list is, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 2 in Soul Artifacts. Now, I was reading an article about this. It gives them a 5/5 life linker flying with Volt Scourge. It gives them a 5/5 and indestructible with their Darksteel Citadel. Also gives them a 5/5 flying infector when they attach it to their land for ideally a kill falls off afterwards, which is kind of a nombo, but so. I mean, it's important to note that this is still a deck, and you can't necessarily skimp on what's going on. Also, the hot tech of Circle of Protection Red in the sideboard needs to be noted as well. Hello, Burn.
Somebody mentioned that like if you're ever bored, I think I read this on Reddit. Someone's like, just go through 8th edition and read the 8th edition spoiler. Because 8th edition is full of things like Circle of Protections, things like Sanctimony are legal randomly, which is like whenever a player taps a mountain, you gain a life. Like, Choke is in there. Just like, go through. If you're ever just wondering what random hate cards are available to you, just go re-familiarize yourself with that set, because it's actually ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, Choke shows up in the 3rd place.
Hybridation is also there. Like stuff that just like probably wouldn't be printed and obviously hasn't been printed since then. But
Choke shows
weird
up,
stuff in that set.
in the Abzan sideboards a lot, in the World of Green Black X sideboards a lot, because Choke turns out pretty good against a blue-red strategy.
Yeah, 8th edition was the first set with the modern border.
Yes,
and not really modern day cards.
Yeah,
we really see the print these days.
Modern border, not really much else modern though. We have another Affinity list in top 8, a blue-red twin list, and then 2 Jund mid-range list, 2 Abzan lists.
Pretty impressive players in the 2 Jund list too, because we have Andrew Boswell and Briska. So.
Yeah, and wiser players than me are playing Jund. I think it might be time to invest again in some of my favorite cards of the format. And then we have Green White Hate Bears showing up in 2nd place. In this list, I don't think has anything too revolutionary, really. Just taking a look. Other than these lists, just make Horizon Canopy way too expensive.
That's very true. Here's what you should look at, Dave. 11th place, Max Brown, who is a token.
Correct.
Maximum Browns.
That's Abzan Collected Company. Take a look.
Yeah.
Oh man,
this could be a standard deck, by the way.
Abzan Collected Company? Not like this.
Not like this one.
Nope.
Take a look at that deck.
Yeah, look at this. I actually did not see this before.
This looks very similar to another deck I know many people in the local area might have loved a lot.
Something about a pod?
Yeah, something about birth? I don't know.
Something about birth.
Nobody wants to see that.
So, I mean, a quick aside here about Birthing Pod, and I've actually made this point a couple times to some people over the last few weeks, is like, you have this deck, there's like a Ghost Way deck, like a Ghostly Flicker deck as well that's been popular. It's been on Moto and everything as well. Like, the spirit of the bannings, at least how Wizards has explained them, like when they banned Green Sun Zenith, was the Green Sun Zenith led to everyone playing the same green cards and Zenithing for those cards. They said that Birthing Pod was the same thing. It led to all the green decks being constructed in a very certain way. And all of a sudden here, we have Birthing Pod banned. You have decks that, if they want to play that style, they still can. But now you have green decks playing a Collected Company and playing, Night of the Reliquary again. Oh, look, that deck shows up, and Zoo shows up again. And it's like, you start to see, maybe they, sometimes you get mad at Wizards and you think, oh, you don't know. But then you look at this and be like, actually, they may have opened green back up into the format a little bit. And it's nice to see. And you can play a deck like this, and you can play a deck like this with just as much skill as you play Birthing Pod, but you don't get a free turn 3, permanent that a lot of decks can't deal with. And I think taking that away, doesn't change that very much. And this deck looks hilarious. Like, if you got to feel pretty good when you're like end of turn Congregation of Dawn. Like, you can just like search for 3 things, draw the one you want, and then collect a company for the next 2.
Yeah, like, I mean that's how they win. Is they like do turn 3 Congregation, turn 4 Collected Company, and just win. And that's fine.
With Anafenza and Malera both in there, best friends.
BFFs. So yeah, I think that you'll see a lot of pod players be like, well, this is similar. And you know, it's not like how pod ended, where pod ended it just being like, I'm just going to be a utility, like not a combo deck, just a utility deck. This is definitely a combo
pod,
deck.
so to speak.
Yeah. It's definitely a combo deck, but you still do have the strategy of Plan B, kill you with creatures, and potentially the Plan A combo. I'm not really sure if those plans are actually switched, but we'll see what happens with this list. But I see people like flocking to this.
Yeah, I was considering like building this deck because it's actually fairly inexpensive. Honestly, like the land, like besides like some of the fetches, like it's not really bad at all. So
I think you still
Put up to 4 noble hierarchs.
Okay. Well, okay. I'm sorry. I'm trying to think of like a few cards you might.
So you're
already...
thinking about building this potentially after Modern Masters 2.
Right. Because like besides that and voice, like what is there?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
not a whole lot.
Verdant Catacombs, I suppose, but like those are supposedly going to get reprinted soon as well, right?
I mean,
like
we're going back to Zendikar. I heard they're there.
Is that where the Verdant Catacombs were? But
last time
they
I
all
checked.
What if they all got eated and they're not verdant no more?
Oh man.
Sorry, everybody.
Lastly, the Legacy IQ. It was taken down by Jeskai Stoneblade, piloted by David Melendez.
Oh, not David Nolan. No, he played Delver.
No,
But this is Legacy now.
Yeah, and second place was actually an interesting list coming back again. Dead Guy Ale. So piloted by Wilkin Chow. So yeah, if Legacy's your thing, take a look at some of these lists. A lot of them are the same. We do see Mono Red Burden show up in top 8 though, and that has become more and more of a popular Legacy deck. I know a lot of people sort of marginalize it, but it is actually gotten a lot of recent additions that do make it a bit more of a contender. Things like Searing Blood, things like Eidolon of the Great Rebel. So. If you do want to get invested into Legacy, this is actually becoming a better and better place to start than it used to be previous years. So, yeah. I believe that's everything really for Constructed. I did play in an IQ over the weekend, played Jeskai aggro. I'm not sure if that deck is good. I finished in 3rd/4th place. And I lost to Lord Nolan playing Green-White Devotion, which with Dramoka's Command, I'm not sure if that's as good as a matchup as it used to be playing, Jeskai. Them having access to an early removal spell that kills Manus Rider pretty handily with most anything they've already played is pretty good.
Don't really want to go back into the heroic deck, but one thing we didn't mention was that Dramoka's Command gives that deck removal for Rabble Master, which before they just couldn't kill. You just had to kind of race
It also gives them counter magic for burn spells. So it's like it works as another pseudo protection spell as well.
There were plenty of times where Lord Nolan just was like, negate your Stoke the Flames, kill your dude.
Fight your guy.
Yeah.
Like, how do you win there? You know
you don't. You lose. and take your 12 packs and go home.
I will say this. So we're all playing in states, or at least me and Mike are.
I don't think I am.
Oh, all right.
I can't play standard states.
Well, I'm playing in standard states, and I'm looking for a deck because I have no idea what to play. But I know this. I don't want to be playing enchantments because I know that I feel like Dramoka's Command is going to be everywhere.
It's very possible.
And I don't want to play Rabble Master for.
So you either play no enchantments or a lot of enchantments.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so I don't really want to be playing enchantments, and for reasons that we discussed earlier, I don't want to be playing Rabble Masters, because I don't think it's positioned that well right now. Don't really want to be playing Control. I'm looking at Mardu potentially. No, Mardu or Jeskai tokens.
Yeah, we're talking about Mardu. I think tokens. I think there's a good build there. I played tokens last week. I will say I've been trying to test it more online. I still have been very unimpressed with Ojutai. I know a couple people, the Star City guys, have been very high on it. But I was listening to Top Level podcast today from last week. They were talking about Ojutai at the end. How Eric Froelich was saying how good it is just to play it and let it sit back. And I'm like he's like, how can they win? It just blocks everything. I'm like, what in this format does it it blocks a Mantis Rider maybe, but it doesn't block anything in abs and aggro. Anything. It cannot actively block anything and live. It was very mediocre for me, and it's frustrating because I'm a person who that I look at that card and be like, oh baby, I like those colors, I like the things you're telling me right now, and it felt very bad when I had it in play. Like, in the times you haven't played with an Ascendancy, like, you're already so far ahead when you have an Ascendancy in play. Like if you ever played tokens or played against tokens, like, the draws where they have a hard time finding an Ascendancy are really mediocre. Like, you can still win from those positions, but then the draws where they just go, like, even if they have no creatures in play, they just play a turn 3 Ascendancy.
And you don't deal with it?
Yeah, like, then you're not even playing the same game anymore. Like, you're just not. So, like saying Ojutai works great with Ascendancy is, like, cool. So does every card in the deck. Like, I don't know. I explored today building really small again. Like, seeing if you could go super low again. Because, like, playing the 24 lands, like, Anticipate's very good, but I feel like you could shave a land to play Anticipate if you went smaller. I tried playing a version with only 4 creatures, just played 4 Seekers. That's where I played a match where I got really destroyed by that enchantment though. So that's probably not very good, but it's just interesting to me.
I'm really interested to test out Ojutai Exemplars. I think that's a card that people were kind of excited about coming out of Dragons. We haven't really seen it showing up in anything yet. So.
The problem is, it's just, as a 4-drop, it has a lot of competition, I guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, it definitely needs a specific deck to optimize it for sure. But
I think Top Level talked about this as well. I don't want to rehash.
Yeah, I don't want to rehash, but I think it's a card that is poised to break out.
I think the real issue I've had with that card so far, and again, I agree, it's a card that is poised to break out, but it's also a card that like if you still have to, even looking at this top 16 for Standard this week, you have to assess the format through Abzan aggro, right? And Exemplars fare so poorly against Siege Rhino, and honestly, not even that well against most of their decks, because they have, they play a 4 Abzan Charms, which makes all of their guys be able to be bigger than your guy. And the fact that he doesn't have prowess, he has the pseudo prowess that gives you abilities, is great, it's powerful, but like, you don't really want to be flickering him out so he doesn't die in combat. Like, that's how you lose a game. And I think that's where the issue is. Like, Dave, I shared a list with you that I've been testing with Exemplars that, just trying to see where you could push that card.
Right.
And I don't think that deck was actually very good, but just seeing where you could push that card. I do want to play a deck that has Monastery Mentor and Exemplars in it, because I think you could play 4 Exemplar, 4 Monastery Mentor, 4 Valor stands for God's Willing. That's where I want to start. There's probably some huge number of Treasure Crews in that deck as well. Beyond that, I don't know. Seeker's insane. Ojutai's command tested well for me. I was trying to play a Lucis Spellfist. I don't do that.
We went too deep.
But it's just, like, it probably could be Jeskai Sage.
Stop it. I can't win the bet anymore. There's better two-drop removal spells now in the format.
Yeah, who's playing Reality Shift in his ultimate price, right?
Yeah, I just can't.
Or Case of Ice, honestly.
Yeah, I can't win the bet anymore. It's actually impossible, but you still can.
LSV,
That's scary.
One time, buddy. LSV, come on.
Don't play Jeskai Sage. Just for the sheer fact that I don't want to buy any more burritos. So let's go ahead and let's kind of wrap up here. Let's focus on the Pro Tournament. So Brussels kicks off 3 a.m. Eastern Time. If you really want to watch it, you probably should be sleeping though in the Eastern Time zone. Any kind of predictions? I mean, of what is going to be there at all from anyone?
Well, it kind of touched on this earlier. Like I feel like we'll definitely see more control decks. And that's just kind of how Pro Tours go in general anyway. I think a lot of pros just kind of gravitate toward the blue cards, control decks.
If I had to pick a card in the top 5, like, hey, top 5 cards of Pro Tour Real Brussels, Dig Through Time is on that list somewhere.
Yeah. I'm still thinking Siege Rhino's probably in there somewhere as well, still.
Well, yeah, you're right, but like I don't know what version is the best. Is Abzan Aggro the best right now, or is there a new Abzan? Like, are we going to see something like Jacob Wilson's, Abzan Control with the new CDC?
Yeah, we'll have to definitely take a look and see what potentially could be coming up here.
Yeah, I definitely think there's some cards that we kind of thought would be really good that haven't really busted out yet.
Yeah.
I think Ojutai Exemplar is one of them. Even just Dragonlord Ojutai himself. I feel like he's popped up in a couple lists, but I think that card really could break out at this Pro Tour. I think that's probably the one that I'm most thinking is is going to show up. some of the top lists.
I wouldn't disagree with that, but I go back to what I said about him before. If he shows up a whole bunch, it's because it's going to be a bunch of Esper mirror matches slamming Ojutais against each other. Again, I don't know if that illustrates how good it really is against the format. You know what I mean? So we'll have to see how that works. But I wouldn't disagree. There'd be a lot of it. I think if that's true and Heroic's true, I think like some of these sideboard cards tend to gain a lot. Like Rending Volley seems like it'll be pretty good if you're expecting like Heroic to be good and you're expecting a bunch of Ojutais. Like, well, guess I'll just board this Rending Volley and like let's go ahead and deal with all of it. And I think some of the, like we saw in Case and Ice has done some solid work, and in Case and Ice seems like it'd be very, very good again. It's sort of scary how much these control decks, like how, like when I was talking about that blue-white deck that I was just sort of messing around with, the Exemplars deck, like the sideboard I built for it for testing was like 4 Glare of Heresy, 3 Surge of Righteousness, 3 Encase and Ice, you know what I mean? And it was just like, it's fine. Like, it didn't even feel bad. It just feels fine. You know, like, okay, cool. Like, oh, you're playing Red, Green, Aggro, cool. I'm just going to sideboard in these 3 2-mana removal spells. Like, cool, Encase that nice. Cool, Encase that nice. Like, so it's sort of interesting that they get the cream of the crop here. There's a couple black sacrifice effects back in the format that weren't there before. And honestly, the Esper deck, the Shaheen deck, and I say the Shaheen deck, but there's actually a number of these dragon decks that showed up, at least in the Invitational. Playing Silumgar's Scorn as a 4-of, but like even it was a Dragon Tongue Invocation,
Foul Tongue
Invocation is the one like. Like we were cubing last week, and a card that came back up again was Ribbons of Night or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and that card is a 5-drop. It's still like, deal 4 damage, gain 4 life, draw a card. And like, that card's like for 3 mana, like, oh, show you my Ojutai in hand. You sack a guy, gain 4 life. And that's such a huge tempo swing for the Esper deck.
I think we'll see that especially if Ojutai does break out, because that's a way to kill opposing Ojutais.
Ojutais is that. And Silumgar's, because that's been the other, not Dragonlord. Sorry, buddy. You're fine. You're in the board, though. But the Drifting Death has been, the other dragon in those decks. And it kills him as well. And I think that's why we assess that Crackling Doom as being something that would be very good again as well.
Yep.
Maybe you go back to seeing some of those 4-color mid-range decks that are just trying to, like if the control decks are going to play their game, then you're going to try and play the deck that just plays all the best cards. Like, there was those wonky lists that were trying to run, like Mantis Riders and Siege Rhinos and Crackling Doom. You know what I mean? They could, these decks could be playing, like, Thunderbreak Regents now, however you want to try and build these decks. But I think there's enough cards in the format that you could play a deck that could get value against the control decks. Like we talked about how you could build Mardu. You could build a base white and Ojutai Exemplars be your 4-drop, and then you're just playing Protect the Queen, which is fine. Or you can play it with like Thunderbreak Regents, Storebred Dragons, and like then every one of the removal spells still gives you value, which is how you beat control. Like I think it would be interesting to see if somebody legitimately like. And I guess I'd peg Brad Nelson here, to be quite honest, but like is able to assess, here's the control decks I think are going to be good, and here's the deck that beats them.
Yeah, you just next level the field.
And like, and I think that deck will be interesting, and I could see that deck being like Mardu or something else, like just something that's like a little off, but is good.
Yeah, I really think just like mono red aggro, I think in general is just very good against blue black Esper, anything like that.
So bad.
It's
still so bad.
It's a lot better now than it was.
Sure,
but
still not great.
Yeah, but I do think mono red can kind of keep those control decks in check. I just don't know how much it's going to be played at the Pro Tour, because it generally, and we have seen mono red be played be the #1 deck at Pro Tours before, but generally it is not played as much.
It's true. And I'm definitely looking forward to Craig Westco's Anafenza deck, because I'm assuming that's what's going to happen.
I mean,
see some Dragon Hunters, some Anafenza.
He's got Dramoka's Command. I mean,
oh dear lord,
that feels like we could have another green-white aggro deck top 8ing a Pro Tour.
We don't have Judges Familiar anymore.
Yeah, no Judges.
True. No Judges.
Might not be winning it, but
I mean, he could be in there. He could be in the running. You definitely have some powerful white weenie creatures.
Suntail Hawk, is that one legal now?
I think it is.
Oh yeah.
You have
there's the Warrior one.
Yeah, you have the Warrior one.
Same
That's
thing.
fine.
Yeah,
it's
right.
perfect. Yeah, he's already set. He's gonna play white X Warriors. He'll be fine.
God. And his 4 mana. Oh man, it's the Raider Spoils. It is.
Yeah. I mean. I guess we're just going to be watching replays of the Pro Tour, basically, at this point in time, which is unfortunate. It's awesome to watch it live, but I'm not waking up at 3 a.m.
Yeah, well, I was I was trying to figure it out earlier. So if it starts at 3, and they always do, they start off with draft, which personally, I know a lot of people like watching the the actual draft. I'm not that interested in that. So if you figure an hour for the draft and then 3 rounds, that's like 4 hours right there. So we're really getting into like standard around like 7:30 ish. Like that's not too bad. I can go for that.
I'm 100% still sleeping then.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
it's unfortunate.
It should be interesting to note, though, that if whatever decks do well at the Pro Tour, if people are watching it, they could show up at States. It isn't like years past where like States is happening like at the same time. No. You will have the tech if you want it before you walk in on Saturday.
Yeah, day 2 will be almost over with by the time States starts on Saturday. So you might not have the exact deck list yet, but you'll have a good idea of what's doing well.
Yes,
right. Yeah, you'll be able to know what's what.
I'm sure they'll do the like generic deck text like they did last time, where it's like, we're going to show you a bunch of cards but no numbers. Like, here are some cards that are in my deck. But that's fine. I mean, I understand why they do that.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited. Like, I don't know. I'm more excited about this one than I was about the last one. The last one being modern, and we kind of knew what to expect. This one, I really don't know.
Yeah, it'll be certainly interesting to kind of see what rises to the top. If there's anything new,
This one will actually show off the new set.
yeah. Like, are we going to have a situation where it's like, oh, there's these mono blue and mono black decks that, oh, these are just flash in the pans, and then it's like, oh no, wait, these are just the most dominant decks for the rest of the season.
Okay.
But I mean, like, could we have that? Is that still a possibility, or is it going to be like how it's been since Cons and Fate came out, where it's just like things rotate between good and bad throughout the season? Like, that's the question. I think it's probably going to be that, just due to the dynamicies of the format. So we'll see what happens. But
Yeah, I don't think we're really going to get away from that. I just think the format's still in flux right now. It's still shaping up, so we'll kind of see what happens at the Pro Tour, and then I'm sure from there we're not gonna see the same metagame for very long. It's gonna continue to evolve.
And
But
that's
that's
exciting.
good. I like that.
So if you are not planning on being, constantly watching the Pro Tour, you can attend States, and there's 2 States events here locally, and probably wherever you are in your state, of course. A standard one on Saturday and a modern one on Sunday. Comic Town is hosting ours locally. It's going to be downtown at the convention center. So definitely come on down Saturday or Sunday, or both, because, I mean, come on, both are awesome formats currently. And play some Magic.
I'm really sad that I can't play on the modern one.
Yeah, I'm sad that I'm going to be alone at the modern one on Sunday.
You can come watch us play softball.
I would rather not, but that's okay.
Wow.
No.
Wow. Like, you
It's actually supposed to be really nice on the weekend, so we'll
Sunday's
see.
actually supposed to be the nicest day.
Yeah.
No, we don't want you to come. we want you to ask questions like, why are you guys being physically active? I don't understand why you would do this.
I can't comprehend
That
that.
running looks terrible.
Where you're just going around in a circle. Well, it's a diamond, but kind of the same thing.
I would hate for your skin to start melting like that Indiana Jones guy.
Yeah, it's really bad.
The sun?
Listen, I can't help it.
He chose poorly. I mean,
I can't help it
I was
if
going with Raiders there, but that one works as well. That's fine.
I can't help it if the sun has the same Covenant of the Ark effect on my skin.
There's a lot of face melting in that series.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Well, to be fair, one's face melting, the other one's like advanced aging. So
yeah, okay.
So, if you definitely are coming in from the local area or expanded, come find us, say hi, say what's up.
if you find me, you come to my house. Don't say
Find
go away.
me on Saturday and you on Sunday.
Yes, correct.
There we go.
Of course, we already mentioned Comic Town, but you can actually find out more information about States from their Facebook page. You can just search Comic Town Gaming Center on Facebook. Also find us online at yourendstep.com, or follow us on Twitter at yourendstep is our handle. You can also subscribe to the podcast via iTunes or use Podcast Republic if you are an Android user. Also, it's up on MTGcast, and MTGcast honestly is a great resource for a whole plethora of different podcasts. Please go listen to all of the podcasts, all the Magic podcasts you could ever want, and support that website. It's a great place to go if you are need more Magic content. And
Input. Need input.
But this will be it for this week's episode of At Your End Step. We'll catch you guys later, and have a great one. Bye.